Hello and welcome. Today we've got Lance Schuttler, and today we are going to be discussing the human IQ and the quantum brain. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to our Telegram channels and to nicholasveniamin.com for my free email updates. And if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube, I will leave the link below in the description for the full interview, unless, of course, myself and Lance can choose our words wisely due to the insane censorship that's happening right now. Lance, thank you for joining me, sir. How are you and what have you been up to?
Hey, Nicholas. Thank you, man. It's great being back, and I'm really looking forward to this. So the last time you and I talked, we talked about the pine pollen and, the power of it and the multifaceted ways that it can elicit for us. And, I want to talk a little bit more about that as well, because it did so well and we've actually got more back in stock. And then we'll talk about something else as it relates to even more so with human IQ and quantum processes happening in the brain and what people can do to actually help support their brain and their nervous system in a lot of different ways.
Absolutely. Now, we really do live in the matrix, and we're all slaves to our to the system and to even our mental minds. And the other day, my friend was telling me something, and I said, listen, it's good to be cautious, but don't focus on that, I says to him, because we don't want to underestimate the power of quantum engineering, which is basically whatever we think, there's a much more powerful source where our thoughts are like magnets and we create that reality. And I believe, is this the sort of the style that you would like to go down to educate people on?
Yeah, exactly, Nicholas. Thank you. So, with that pine pollen, we talked about it, why it's so important, specifically for the times that we're in. And this is the product that we discussed. And this pine pollen, Nicholas, we're getting it from Canada, and it's a wild crafted, living, vital food. And that's like a really important point that I want to make, is that this stuff it's raw, wild crafted. It's not being irradiated, because many products get irradiated when they come in across the US. And so we want things that are vital and full of life, because we are life and we want to consume those things. And that impacts the brain in so many different ways. But this 13-second little clip is a good visual of what pine pollen is. So, a lot of people clearly know what pine pollen is. Right now, it's starting to get dispersed, and people sometimes have allergies to different species. And what makes this so unique, Nicholas, is that there's 200 different nutrients in it and 14 different vitamins, and all the amino acids that we need, and then nature's highest source of these steroids or phytohormones. Okay, and that ties in specifically to DHEA and the pineal gland, which we talked about last time a little bit. Nicholas, do you want to add anything or ask any questions at this moment?
Oh no, you're doing a great job explaining that, but I am taking down notes, whilst you're talking.
Awesome. Okay, so the pineal gland. I'll show this. A lot of people know, as we discussed last time, this Fontana della Pigna pine cone statue at the Vatican is representative of a lot of different things, but certainly relating to the pineal gland, right there in the brain, right there. And they call that the seat of the soul. And it helps to produce melatonin, which regulates the cycles of light and dark in our human physiology. So it's a really interesting metaphor of the concept of light versus dark, and how it relates to the soul, and just things that are happening. So very interesting. But it also, like we talked about with those hormones, it's nature's highest source of this DHEA. And what you talked about, Nicholas, at the beginning was like, we're all we can be subject to our mind's own limitations, or limitlessness, because the power of the mind overrides all. And so if we can do things that actually help support us on a physical level too, in the physical nutrients and compounds in the brain, then that only is going to help us, manifest more, live the life that we want and do the things that we want to do with the power of the mind. So DHEA, in short, there was a really incredible study published in Nature, and it showed that there was a reduced activity in certain areas relating to negative emotions. So basically, a person wouldn't get as triggered by an event. Okay. And then they were able to show in the brain of humans increased activity in the hippocampus and the amygdala, the connectivity between them. And what that does is it helps us then to regulate or process these things in like really healthy, balanced ways, so that we're not, rehashing trauma. We can actually work through trauma or work through, say, just a tough day or a challenging situation.
Absolutely.
So this SOD, this is another thing that's very interesting. SOD, superoxide dismutase, they've actually studied this, Nicholas, in tortoises that, okay, they have the highest levels of SOD because they're eating algae. Algae's the highest source of SOD, and the next is pine pollen. So pine pollen, highest source of DHEA, second highest source of SOD. And this basically acts as a powerful free radical scavenger, and it can help detoxify heavy metals that have accumulated in the brain and also just throughout the body, and just supporting overall healthy detoxification. But basically, they've correlated SOD levels to lifespan. So on average, a person has 90 micrograms per ml, and we live to about 80 years, okay? Chimpanzees, about 40 mLs of SOD, about 40 years of life. So this science and the study basically show that the more SOD a person has, the longer one's cellular lifespan can be. Whether that equates to more years of someone's life, that's highly variable. But on a cellular level, it's definitely helping to support the lifespan of the cell.
Okay. So how can we measure how much SOD we have in order to control it and increase it with the stuff that you're going to show us, I presume?
Right. So measuring, you would have to go to, the right sort of clinic to get that blood work done. It wouldn't be something that you'd really necessarily be able to do at home. Now, and consuming it, yes, like we have it in there, and your levels, should go up. Again, everyone's different. Everyone's metabolism is different, but people's levels of SOD in theory should go up because it is present in the pine pollen. So yeah, please continue, Nicholas.
No, you please continue. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. So, with the pine pollen, like we talked about last time, we get ours from Canada and we don't crack the cell walls. We keep it uncracked. And this is what allows us to maintain the vitality and the raw living vital aspect to our pine pollen. So, this powder right here, this is what we've got. And these top two bins, these are this is the powder in a liquid form that we have. This brown one, this is an oxidized cracked cell wall. And you can just see that the nutrients have started degrading. So, we just ask people, what would you rather prefer, the oxidized degrading one or this bright, vibrant, amazing one? So that is what, we've brought out to the world, Nicholas, is this pine pollen. And we talked about this last time, and so many people bought it, and we've got more in stock now, and we know that it's going to fly. So, people who are interested, Nicholas has got that link right there in the description, and it just becomes very good. Now, Nicholas, I'd like to ask you, and you've had it now for a little while. Do you have any feedback, or do you have any insights or anything like that?
I've been using it for about 2 weeks now. I've been following your instructions. I've been putting half a teaspoon in my low-fat Greek yogurt, 0 fat, and it doesn't taste of anything. And I add my sweeteners in there, or might add some fruit in there, and at least I know I've got my my daily, if you like. I'll be honest, I haven't really fully felt the effects yet. So why don't you tell us, how long does it take for some people? Because I do remember you saying that some people feel it straight away, and then some people it might take some time, and we have to be patient. How does that work? And if you could explain that for us, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's the good news is that it's not surprising to hear that you haven't felt anything in 2 weeks. That's fine because the pine pollen, uh, it's all those different nutrients. It's uh, the way when the hormones are getting affected, the hormones take time, absolutely, because they're affecting so many systems in the body that hormone levels, as you know, Nicholas, they need to be very tightly regulated. And so the body does everything it can to regulate that and make sure that things don't go, out of whack one way or another. And so when we're adjusting our hormone levels, let's say with the consumption of these phytohormones, it can take time. And traditional Chinese medicine has used pine pollen for over 2,000 years, and they've used it for a lot of different reasons. And it's always, very common for like traditional Chinese medicine for things to take, let's say, 1 to 2 to 3 months. Now, most people like are feeling something before 3 months, before month 3. But it really is going to be individual. Someone healthy like yourself, I would really assume that you're going to start feeling something, probably within the next couple of weeks, I would assume. And maybe it's just something that for you, it's 2 or 3 months. But the point is, even if someone isn't necessarily feeling it in this moment, or it takes a few weeks or several weeks, the good news is that those compounds are still circulating in our bloodstream. The body still knows how to recognize them, and the body is using them. It's just a matter of, okay, when does it kick in to where, hey, I'm noticing some effects.
So I have to admit that I have had a lot on my plate recently, and it's been a little bit stressful. So maybe that plays a role. Does that play a role in slowing down to feel the effects, and it may take a little bit longer to feel those effects? What do you think?
Absolutely, because when we have cortisol spike, let's say too much or too often, which stress induces, um, then that cortisol hormone is so powerful that it can negate, good things that are happening in the circulatory system at a given time. So, constant fluctuations of cortisol or other stress hormones definitely is going to throw things off. Uh, in those ways. And so that's why with traditional Chinese medicine and just like herbology in general, things need to be consumed consistently over time so that it can have its gradual effects of, okay, just overpowering, kind of like a wave, just crashing against the sea. Like it just needs the continual consumption and movement of it. And that's how things start to become, more balanced in the body. And that's, from all the different practices that I've learned in relation to nutrition and, nutrients and supplementation. That's really like the common practice and just knowledge for people is that, hey, it's not a pharmaceutical. It's not something that necessarily is going to kick in a day or two. Some people will feel it, but these are things that the body knows what to do. Just be patient, give it time, and we're consuming those nutrients, so the body will recognize it.
Absolutely. Now, is there anything more that you'd like to say about the pine pollen before we move on to the human IQ and the quantum brain?
No, that's it, Nicholas. I appreciate that. So I'll share this stuff. So we were talking, for the title of this, the quantum brain, human IQ and the quantum brain. And, there's something that is very interesting. We just released a new product, and I'm going to talk about this, but even if someone's not interested in products, this information is going to be very, very interesting. And, it'll be very short here. So there's one study back in 2012, Nicholas, that this neuroscientist published, and he's in London, and he's the director of the Brain Chemistry and Human Nutrition Institute there. And he said in this paper that DHA is actually more important than DNA itself. Okay. That's a very large, massive statement to make. And so clearly, he has to have some good information to back that. So in short, what is DHA? It's docosahexaenoic acid, and it's this omega-3 fatty acid that many people know. and people equate it to fish or fish oil. So the fish eat the algae. The algae actually makes the DHA, and the fish eat the algae. And so when we would consume, let's say, salmon, we're taking in the DHA from the fish that has eaten the algae. And so, many different published studies in relation to the brain and the nervous system of what it's doing supports cognitive function, sleep, memory, healthy stress resistance, healthy reaction time, executive function, so forth. But the reason that this is important, Nicholas, and why it does all this is because the human brain is dependent on DHA, this fat, for the proper development of it. And so people have heard, okay, pregnant mothers and nursing mothers need to consume, let's say, more fish or more DHA. And the reason is because they need DHA not only for themselves, but then to give to their child that's being birthed and developed within her. And it's just a fundamental component that the brain needs. And so we go for the source of that, and I'll bring that up. There's a couple like crazy facts about the brain, Nicholas. There's 86 billion neurons in the brain. This is like a beautiful mapped image of it. And there's 150 trillion synapses. I mean, almost uncountable. So what's going on is DHA is actually the master omega that actually keeps things efficient in the brain. Okay, so the energy that is flowing throughout the brain, which we call voltage, that is actually controlled by DHA. And there's another really mind-blowing fact about the brain, which is, so the voltage across the little small neuronal membranes in the brain is about 14 million volts per meter. Okay. And to produce thunderstorm or a lightning in a thunderstorm, all that's needed is 3 million. So the human brain is literally about 5 times stronger in terms of its voltage output than what's needed to create lightning in a thunderstorm. So it's, amazing stuff. And so this will also help to produce synaptamide, which helps support neurogenesis. And, this is the concept, Nicholas, of neuroplasticity, neurogenesis, and just the overall enhancement and strengthening of the brain and nervous system. DHA is, again, a fundamental component that actually induces the production of this compound, synaptamide, to help do this throughout the brain and nervous system. So it's, really incredible stuff, helps support the telomeres. And, you know about this, Nicholas, with telomeres and chromosomes. If you have longer telomeres, that equates to longer, healthier cellular life. So DHA, again, a fundamental component of chromosomes and telomeres. And then pineal gland. We actually take the light in through the sun, Nicholas, through our eyes. Those photons come in, they hit these rods and these cones, the green and red right there, or gray. And there's 91 million rods, 4.5 million cones, and all of them are dependent on DHA. All of them need DHA to actually properly function, because what it's doing is that DHA, Nicholas, is actually a semiconductor of photonic energy. And this is, actually something that's proven quite well, even in mainstream physics. And they even accept that this concept of quantum tunneling of electrons happens because of DHA. And so the voltage comes in through the sun, the light through the eyes, hits the eyes, the retina, and that what happens through the DHA is that photonic light energy is actually transformed by the DHA to then create an electrical signal in the form of electrons that's then passed through, and that's how the neurons communicate. So again, it's like this fundamental like middleman, so to speak, of this light energy to the electrical energy in the brain.
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
So just to intervene just a little bit here. So you mentioned that the neurons connect, we get them interacting together. Could you explain the benefits of the neurons in our body connecting together?
Yes, absolutely, Nicholas. So, you can see here, like, let's look at this big one on the right as an example. This one is a fully developed, mature neuron that has many different branches and axons and dendrites. And so what that means is it's easier for those branches to connect to other neurons. And if they're connecting to other neurons and new neurons are being created and new connections, then the brain is optimizing itself, and it's being able to communicate with itself more efficiently. Because if the dendrites and the axons aren't connecting, or there's just a lower number of neurons in the brain than is healthy, then we can suffer some things that we don't want to go through. But if we're having healthy levels of these compounds that help support the structure and function of neurons, then it really is going to just help, in short, healthy memory, healthy focus, healthy clarity, IQ. There's actually studies showing how DHA consumption over lifetime relates to IQ, particularly the young developing children. This is why it's so important for the children, so that this process can happen for them at a rapid rate, so they can fully mature and develop.
So also, when the neurons connect, does that support reversing illnesses like MS, for an example?
So, due to what the FDA allows us to say, I can't really answer that question. What I can say is that DHA is commonly shown to support a healthy nervous system and brain. And when the neurons are connecting and firing properly as they should, then that's the state of health. And so, people can, if they're interested in that topic, I would say just read more about DHA and its relation to the nervous system. And there'll just be a lot of good information there.
Okay.
Yeah. So, what we've done, Nicholas, is, there's many different fish oil products out there. People also consume, fish in their diet. And we really want to look at getting up to 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams of DHA per day, because that's actually what's been shown in at least 12 different human clinical studies, that's what can help build up DHA levels in the body. And this will actually take about 3 months, and it can take longer for some people. But this is like common. It's even in the fish oil industry, that is a common number, 3 months to actually build up your omega levels, the omega-3 levels. And so what we've done, Nicholas, is we wanted to get the purest source of it. And that's exactly what we found. So we offer a water extracted algae oil. Everyone else in the algae oil industry is using hexane extraction, which leaves residue and you don't want to consume it. And the only other thing that we have in it is vitamin E as the natural preservative. So it's a very pure, clean, original source, because again, the fish eat the algae. So let's just go to the source of it, because that's what it is. And that's what we have. The source, the pure, true source of it, the algae oil DHA. And it's just, very pure and clean. The taste is extremely mild. You can easily mix it with juices, smoothies, and just, take it down very easily. I mean, I just take it under my tongue with no issue. There's just a slight taste to it, but it's not fish. You won't get the fish burps that people commonly use. So, it's just interesting that we're able to get this in a really nice water extracted form.
Sorry, how many drops did you say under the tongue?
So it equates to 1 to 2 milliliters. And so that's 1 to 2 servings. And we've got that information on the bottle and on the website, Nicholas, too, so that people can easily reference that, because that's the most common question. Okay, well, how much do I actually have to take of the physical substance itself? So, this stuff is something that we brought out to help people, because again, what's more important than, there's many, of course, wonderful, important things to health, but in particular for the brain and nervous system, we need to be consuming the most fundamental component, which literally is DHA. Uh, it makes up 90% of the brain's omega-3 needs. Okay. So for omega-3s, the brain needs 97% DHA. So it's a very easy way for people to get up to those 1 to 2,000 levels of DHA in their daily lives, because basically a person would need to eat 5 to 11 servings of, let's say, your average salmon per week to get up to what you would want in a week's dosage of DHA. So if you're someone who's eating fish a couple times a week, this is a really easy way to actually just easily dose yourself of, hey, okay, maybe I need 1,000 more milligrams of DHA. Very simple and easy to add in and like truly supplement what a person might be consuming in their diet.
And without obviously the mercury that we would have from the fish as well, because it comes from the sea, doesn't it?
Absolutely. There's definitely safety concerns. Some of them have been blown out of proportion. Some of them are absolutely just as important as they sound. And just what you said, Nicholas, definitely the heavy metal toxicity, it varies depending on where the fish is caught, but it is a real issue for sure.
Absolutely.
So, with this, we just launched this, Nicholas. So, like we've talked about, the pine pollen sells extremely well. This is selling even better. And so we expect both of them to go fast. Both of the links are right there, in your description. So, Nicholas, if there's anything else, any questions or anything you want to talk about, please.
No, that you showed a very great academic presentation there. You've got me interested. I really want to try it because it's my health and my pineal gland, and like you said, with the content brain, it's been great. I will definitely leave the link below so that anyone is interested in learning more, they can also contact you as well, because my platform is very important when it comes to education. And that's what you're doing. You're educating the people. So really, thank you so, so much. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
Um, Yeah, well, thank you, Nicholas, for those words. I appreciate that. And this was really enjoyable and exciting for me. And I would like to thank everyone who has bought in from the last interview that we had, and also thank everyone who intends to buy and will buy from this interview. We appreciate it. It's amazing. The products that we've got coming are even many, many more coming that are also really incredible. So thank you, Nicholas. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye bye.